Hi everyone, I'm Ferd and welcome to my video. Today I'm working on a Toro personal pace and it has the Briggs and Stratton engine on it. Now around 2019, Briggs and Stratton filed for bankruptcy. They had already then made up plans to dump the internal combustion lawnmower engine and focus on the lithium powered electric motors. So this was already in the works a long time ago. But anyhow, that's around the same year the motor that's on this thing was built. And to be honest with you, I had trouble trying to find any specs for this thing at all. You can't get them from Briggs and Stratton. You can't find them online. They were made available to the dealers through a manual for those EXI motors for the series. As far as torquing the heads and all of that, right up front, I want to tell you that that's just my experience from similar bolts and similar mowers, and it's not to the exact specs as probably what Briggs and Stratton has. But anyhow, this was a tough video. As far as working on this thing, I'm going to be the first to admit I'm getting kind of old and I'm not as sharp as I used to be, and I really screwed up big time on this thing. Anyway, I'm going to leave you hanging there. You need to watch this thing all the way through because I'm going to share my mistakes with you. A lot of people won't do that. I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you, have made the same mistakes. I hope you enjoy the video. Hope you get something out of it. And I'll see you a little bit later on to fill you in on some things. Today I'm working on a Toro personal pace. These are halfway decent mowers. This one's got most of the bells and whistles on it. The problem that we have with this one is it will not start. What I'm going to do is test the three basic things that you need to test for a lawnmower to run. Is it getting fuel? Is it getting spark? And does it have compression? I've already checked the carburetor on it only because the owner, before he gave it to me, said that he put a new float in the carburetor and he can't get this thing to start. So I know that it doesn't have a fuel problem. What I'm going to do is a spark test on it, and then a compression test, and see what happened. Okay, I'm going to test it for spark. And now we'll see if it's getting compression. Bottom line is, we're going to take the head off of this thing and see what's going on under there. Hopefully it's just a blowed head gasket. All right, the first thing I want to do is take this cover off of it. I've got a number 25 Torx bit. You got two screws up here in the back side of it. One here, and then up under this sticker. Best way to do it is to get up under the front of it and just peel it back. And then down in here you got a little tab. Pry it back with your screwdriver, and then you should be able to lift this thing up off of there like that. Right here is that little tab that I was telling you about. Got a little hook on it, and we'll just take this thing and set it back here out of the way. I've got a 5/16 socket, and I'm going to take the starter assembly off of it. You got 3 hex bolts that look like that. One there, one over here, and one here. And then we just lift that off and we set all that stuff back there out of the way. Now we can get the gas tank off of it. Okay, over here, I'm gonna take off the breather and set that aside and just get that out of my way. I'm gonna take a pair of needle nose and I'm gonna pinch off the fuel line here so gasoline doesn't go all over the place. Inside of here, I'm gonna take a pair of pliers and I'm gonna release that clip, pull that fuel line off the carburetor. Now looking up from the top side of it, the fuel tank just slides up out of there like that. They fit in these two little slots right here. So got that out of the way. Now we're going to take the carburetor off of it. I'm using my 5/16 socket again. I've got a bolt here and on this side. I'm going to take those out. And then I'm going to switch off to a number 7 socket to get these two off. This hose plugs into the back of that breather. Now the carburetor is just kind of plugged in at this point, so you can jiggle it and pull on it at the same time and it should come out like that. Now you're going to get a little bit of gasoline on you, so have you some rags handy. But we want to get these two rods off of here. So I'm going to get it up out of here where I can work with it. And I'm going to tilt it back like that and pull this choke rod out of it. Like that. Okay, now I've got it pretty free there. This has got a Z bend on it. So I'm going to tilt it this way and just pull it straight out. Here comes the gas I was telling you about. Got the carburetor off. We'll set this off to the side. On this plug here, it came out of the carburetor, but you have an O-ring and then you have a plastic O-ring. O-ring and a plastic O-ring. They go like that. I'm going to take these off, put them with the carburetor. I'm going to go ahead and take this bracket off and get it out of the way. I'm going to go back to my 5/16. And this is what this assembly looks like. Now I'm going to take note, when I pulled that off of there, the square part of that was down. So I'm going to set this over there with the carburetor. Next, we're going to pull off the muffler. By the way, this is a 5/16. Using very little tools to take this thing apart for these. So you got two bolts. You had one at the top and the bottom. And then this whole assembly will pull off. And now we're ready to take this head off of it. And back to the 5/16. We're going to pull the valve cover off. Got 3 screws holding that on. And I'm just going to throw them down in there. Got a rubber gasket. Just loosen the rocker arms on it. I'm going to turn it to where I've got them both in the up position, like that. Back to the 5/16. Just loosen that. I'll Loosen that. Pull our push rods out. We've got 4 bolts that are holding the head on. These are a number 10. You take the gasket off and you look around it, and it kind of looks okay. I mean, nothing looks like it's been burned through. And you think, oh shit, there's nothing wrong here. What else could it be? If you look here on the head itself, around the outer edge of it, you see the carbon buildup. And then you get right here to this spot, right here. If you see how clean that is, you can see where compression was being lost under the gasket into the crankcase right here. This is where your push rods come through it. This could be warped a little bit, or just a worn out gasket. So I'm gonna clean this head up, put it on the table where it's flat, and sand it and see if that might be warped a little bit. If it is, I'll sand it down and flatten it, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. This is actually a big piece of 120 grit, and it come off of my sander over there. It's a big belt that feeds all the wood through the sander, but I got it on a really flat surface. I'm going to take my head and lay it on there. I don't like grease on there, but here's what it looks like before, and I'm just going to just move this thing around and sand it. And it's not really taking that much off of it, but it is taking some metal off of it. Look at the bottom, and it don't look bad. It's leaking, so I'm gonna go ahead and just clean this up a little bit. And it is a little low right here towards the center. Flip it around the other way. Here's what it looks like afterwards. So it's got a nice flat surface all the way around it. We're going to go ahead and put this head back on it. Okay, I got the surface sparkling clean. I used some brake clean to get all the grease and oil off of it. I've got this cleaned up the same way, and I'm ready to put it back together. Now, the gasket itself only fits really one way. These 2 little openings are going to go on this side. It's going to be facing down. There's your intake valve. There's the opening. That's where it was actually leaking at. So it's going to go on there like that. Everything's cleaned up. I've got my bolts clean so I don't get any oil on them that way. And we'll use those as the guides to get it started on there. These are some really long bolts. Let's speed things up a little bit. All right, torquing these down at 180 inch-pounds. Okay, right here I've determined that the head gasket was the problem. Reconditioned the head on it, and I'm putting this thing back together. And I want to play you a little part of one of the clips in there before I go any further. You take the gasket off and you look around it, and it kind of looks okay. I mean, nothing looks like it's been burned through. And you think, oh shit, there's nothing wrong here. What else could it be? If you look, yeah, that oh shit moment. And right there, my gut was telling me that wasn't the problem. I mean, to look at it, I would say that it may have been seeping some oil through there, but not enough to keep this thing from running. So I'm going to skip the reassembling part and just go straight towards the end, and we're going to start this mower up. All right, I'm going to put my air breather back on there. Got the spark plug in it. And hopefully it fires up. Let's give it a try. Wow, what was that? Well, it wasn't a head gasket. You know, at this point, I was still baffled. Believe it or not, I was still baffled. But you watch me disassemble the thing. I had the head off of it. And at this point, I'm thinking, maybe it's got to be that plastic cam in there, you know. But in one of the other clips that I don't think I put it in there, I mentioned that it had a plastic cam, but the valves seemed like they were opening and closing okay and all that. But what's the one thing that I did not check that you didn't see in here? The piston, the cylinder walls. I didn't even bother. I don't think I even bothered wiping the wall out when I was just damned and determined that the head gasket was bad. And long story short, I had to take it apart again. I went ahead and pulled the thing off. And once I got past my elderly shit spot, I was able to find out what exactly was wrong with this engine. So let me show you. Okay, I got a little piece of wood here. I'm just gonna see if I can tap it out like that. Because man, this thing is really jammed up in there. Oh man, them things should just slide right out. Okay, here's the problem. You can see the cylinder wall. It's scored up pretty bad. And if I flip it around, you can see on the other side, it's screwed up pretty bad over there too. Now the piston, the rings have kind of welded themselves inside of that gap. They're okay out here, pushed way out. My opinion, this motor's gone. So I talked to the owner. He was willing to buy a brand new engine for it, even after me telling him they were $300+ for a brand new motor, and he was okay with it. So I got home and got to thinking, you know, I can't make no money on just putting a new motor on it. So I got online and I started looking around, and lo and behold, I ran across this ad right here. Toro personal pace with a Kohler engine on it. I mean, how could you get any more lucky than that? And this thing, all it needed was a carburetor cleaned up. The guy bought him a brand new one and wanted it gone, and I picked this thing up for $35. So I was actually to make some decent money on this blowed up push mower, and was able to give him something decent for his money. The Kohler engines are so much better than those Briggs and Strattons. So let me show you how this thing ended up and what it was like when it left my shop. Okay, I've changed up the game plan, and the guy really wants that mower. Now, this is an older one. This one's probably about, I think he says it's between 8 and 10 years old. But they haven't changed much about them as far as the way the engines are and the way they mount. And these are really good engines. But I'm going to take this engine and I'm going to put it on that other one. Get rid of the Briggs and Stratton bullshit altogether. Okay, so I've taken the Kohler engine off of the other mower that I'd found, and I've already got it mounted on here. All the bolt holes and everything match up perfect. This is made for the Toro recyclers. Now, this is my brake and kill cable, and it's going to mount on there perfect. I mean, everything on this is going to match up and run, but even though this thing's 8 or 10 years older. I've got the carburetor rebuilt, and I just need to put my covers and everything back on it, and then this thing's ready to go. Let me go ahead and finish putting this thing together. That right there. And she fires right up. Well, that wraps this one up, and that was one happy customer. I hope you liked this video. I hope you got something out of it. And with the Briggs and Stratton engine, I got it running. I fixed that motor, and I didn't spend a dime doing it. So hit the like and subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you'll get notified when I put that video up there, and see how I've fixed that motor without spending a dime and got it running again. Now, if you're having trouble working on your Toro personal pace lawnmower like I did, have fun.